What's up, everyone? We are back with another astrology shot to get us through the rest of eclipse season. So we do have a solar eclipse just around the corner here. Chances are you're already feeling it. I know I'm already feeling it. We're going to be pulling up that chart in just a moment. I am coming at you from my new home office. Things are finally starting to come together around here. We've got it painted. I still have nothing on the walls. You can hear the joyful screams of my children playing outside the door, probably. But yeah, this eclipse in particular, it's really cool because this is the last one in our Aries-Libra axis that we have been experiencing eclipses in this part of our chart and in this part of the sky since April of 2023. So this eclipse in particular is going to have a little bit of a finality to it. There's going to be something about this eclipse that brings a sense of like encompassing developments that sort of wrap up some of the things that have been shifting and processing for us since April of 23. So let's pull up that chart and we'll get into it. So this eclipse is occurring on March 29th, 2025 at 9 degrees Aries. And some of this might look a little familiar for some of you because last October of 2024, we saw an eclipse at 10 degrees of Libra. So there's a lot of things about this eclipse that are encompassing the theme since April of 23, but more specifically linking together developments that arose last October. So if last September, October was big for you, chances are this time of year with these eclipses is as well. So Aries, seeing an eclipse in Aries, this is going to cause disruptions with things such as machinery, mechanical. I know we just saw a bunch of Teslas recalled, something with glue and using glue instead of welding them. Also, another thing is sovereignty. Like we're seeing treads on rights that were given to people. So things about sovereignty, those things feel a little bit more threatened under the eclipses. Some other things that are unique about this chart. So this is an eclipse that's ruled by Mars. Mars has been in Cancer. We've been working with Mars in Cancer for many months, pretty much since the last eclipse season, last September. So there's something about this eclipse that carries on the significance of Mars and Cancer. Mars and Cancer being a planet that's very protective, defensive, prefers things that are safe, contained, and familiar. So we're seeing like lots of nationalism themes arise with Mars and Cancer, and discussions about territories for sure. Another thing that arises in a big way with eclipses in Aries is themes of leadership. So it's very common to see shifts in leadership along the Aries axis, specifically bringing in new or young blood. So we've been seeing that in different parts of the world. So it'll be interesting to see and watch those leadership themes that develop with the eclipse in Aries. Some nice things about this eclipse. There's a sextile to Jupiter, which is supportive, that feels supportive. And there's also a sextile to Pluto, sort of bringing in that Jupiter-Pluto trine energy. There's an emphasis here. This is a trine that is all about technology, for sure. So there's something maybe along the lines of like Aries mechanical technology. We may see some influences there. But just in general with eclipses, there's a lot that is to be unexpected with eclipses. Things are shifting and developing very rapidly, very quickly. It's common for people to be experiencing all kinds of new and additional stresses in their world, thanks to the developments of the eclipses. So if that's you, if you're feeling it, if you're feeling a little bit more overwhelmed, it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on, you're feeling a little dizzy, I would definitely recommend taking a bath, like a salt bath. If you like Epsom salts, cool. But the ancient texts, they kind of just say like, okay, like just regular salt is fine. Salt has sort of that like neutralizing effect. So I highly recommend it if you're feeling overwhelmed by the eclipses to do that. Because you know what? Us astrologers, we are not immune to what's going on in these eclipses. or with any of the planets. And that's why we're here to tell you, like, take the salt bath and maybe don't do magic. Part of the eclipses too is just like seeing what happens and letting yourself be still and letting the things shift and move around you, and not trying to overcomplicate things. Like if something can wait, put it off. There's a lot in development with Venus retrograde right now and Mercury retrograde. These things are still going on. So don't feel the need to overcompensate in this moment of uncertainty by trying to do extra. This is a time of just wait, see how things develop. Let's move over to the next thing. So on March 30th, we have another major celestial event occurring. As if an eclipse, a solar eclipse in Aries wasn't enough, Neptune is moving into Aries. Some of us might be really excited about this. Some of us might be really sad to see Neptune leave Pisces. I know I am. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this here because I do have a 2-hour webinar available on my website that goes in great detail about Neptune and Aries, what we might expect during this 14-year journey, as well as the historical implications and what those reveal about our current realm, our current reality. I also lectured on this for ESAR. That presentation is about an hour and a half, and ESAR members can get that for free. You can just go to the website and get it. I'm just going to share a little bit here just to kind of summarize what I foresee with Neptune and Aries. So Aries represents the rebel. And what I've been telling people, whether it's musicians or artists or just really anyone, this is the time to push the limit. This is the time to be experimental, because what Neptune represents is what we're drawn to in terms of pop culture, fashion, like what the allure is, what draws us in. And of course, with Neptune and Pisces, that was a big yoga boom, a big astrology boom, and clothes became more flowy and shoes became more pillowy. And that was the Neptune and Pisces era. Everyone was microdosing. Neptune and Aries, things are going to shift a little bit. People want fast. People want speed. I actually see amphetamines coming back. I think fashion becomes a lot more straightforward with Neptune and Aries. We see function and necessity taking precedence over like decoration or even just like aesthetic. We see like utility sort of starting to shape and influence fashion, like specifically Aries being ruled by Mars, representing the soldier, or let's say like a first responder or police officer. We will see those uniforms start to influence civilian aesthetic. We've seen that with Neptune and Aries. I think with music, again, like people are going to push the limits. People aren't going to limit themselves to song structure or what their audiences and listeners might expect. I think Mars being provocative, Mars being a planet that challenges, Mars being a planet that stuns, I think we're going to see some statements being made, whether that's fashion or music or art. I think people are really going to be pushing those limits of what's possible. Freedom and adventure. Here, I'm just going to kind of like skip ahead here, so you'll get a little preview of my lecture. Here's the dates. Here's the dates that Neptune's going to be in Aries. Neptune will be moving back into Pisces in October, just for a quick minute. It's going to return for good on January 26th, where it will stay really until 2039. So this is a whole new era that's going to reshape everything that we're just like collectively drawn to. So I'm gonna just kind of skip forward to some of the things that I think we'll see. I think the way that sports captivate us is going to take on a whole other thing, like where Simone Biles is really inspiring a lot of people to try their hand at gymnastics. Caitlin Clark is bringing back women's basketball. I know even in my city of Cleveland, we're bringing back our WNBA team. So I think just like athletic stardom is going to captivate people in a more distinctive kind of way. People are hitting the gym. Like we're already seeing that. People are getting more toned, more fit. I really think that the way that yoga studios and yoga memberships really captivated many of us and called to many of us, now the gym is going to have a little bit more of an influence. We're already seeing it. We're already seeing people get ripped, but a lot of times you see it sort of ramping up before the transit really locks in. So I'm going to skip ahead here. I think punk is coming back for sure. It may not be a literal incarnation as it was in the 70s and 80s, but I think punk ethos and punk aesthetic is definitely coming back for sure. Anything that's provocative, makes a statement, calls things out, like things can be messy with Neptune and Aries. Like I think with Neptune and Pisces, it was about cultivating a fantasy. And even anyone who's been on social media knows about it. Like the influencer is totally a Neptune and Pisces thing. And Neptune and Aries, like it's okay to just be real. It's okay to just be messy and say, you know what? I don't have it together. I don't know. I don't care, or screw this. Like I think more people are just going to be raw and unscripted. And I think we just are going to crave more realness. Like we don't want the fake stuff. We're bored of it. I think that we're going to see more reverence for people in uniform. And there are indications like with Uranus and Gemini, like especially for those of us here in the United States, that is a transit that very often coincides with our involvement in major wars. So some of us are looking at Neptune and Aries and what's going to happen with war, what's going to happen with weaponry, what's going to happen in terms of like respect and reverence for people in uniforms, people in service, heroes. Like, and I also think that with Neptune's sort of like dissolving fantasy sort of quality, there's also going to be a strong, um, let's see, like the boundary between hero and rebel, or hero and villain rather, is going to become really blurry. In other words, the rebel is going to be revered. And sometimes, like the thing with Aries is that with Aries, it's all about impulse. We don't necessarily have to follow a script. And what I'm seeing, especially with Saturn and Neptune coming into Aries, is that there isn't a script to follow. And so a lot of us are kind of finding ourselves more drawn to people who don't fit the description, the job description before. Like we're seeing it in politics. People who don't have the typical experience are being elected simply because they represent something different, something provocative, someone who's willing to say, I don't like this, someone who's willing to say, screw that. So I think what we are seeing is yeah, like a little bit of chaos with Saturn in Aries. It's sort of like a situation where we can't depend on the old order. We kind of have to rough it. We have to make it up as we go. And so what I have here is the call of adventure with Neptune and Aries. I think more people are going to be wanting to get offline. People are going to be drawn toward having that like authentic in the wild sort of experience, getting off the grid, unplugging. But also when it comes to just trying new things and going rogue, and again, just going off script, I think these things are going to become more attractive for us. So I'm sure I'm going to have a lot more to say on this channel about Neptune and Aries in the future, but for right now, I want to encourage you to find my 2-hour webinar, which you can find on my website, or if you're an ESAR member, to go there for that recording. Okay, so we're back. This is the solar eclipse chart, but I'm going to animate it. Something I wanted to come back to is, as I mentioned, Mars is ruling this eclipse. Mars is in a trine configuration with this little stellium get up over here in Pisces. So what we have is Saturn, the North Node, Venus retrograde, and Neptune over here. So Mars is in a trine configuration, bringing this configuration into our eclipse story. So I want to direct our attention mostly to what's going on with Venus right now, because Venus is basically going to be in a conjunction with Saturn for the entire month of April. So we need to unpack this a little bit. I'm going to start animating the chart forward. Venus is moving backwards. Venus is going to exactly conjoin with Saturn on April 6th and 7th. We're going to see that. And going up to the 12th, this is when Venus stations direct. So Venus is going to station direct on April 12th. This is a full moon, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but this is important. We're going to talk about it now. So Venus is stationing direct, basically in that conjunction with Saturn and the North Node. By this time, of course, Neptune has moved forward and Mercury has moved back. So what we're working with for the entire month of April is this Venus-Saturn story. So part one of this, okay? Think about what Saturn in Pisces has represented for you. And if you're not sure, book a consultation with me or your favorite astrologer. But Saturn has been in Pisces since early 2023, kind of the same timeline as these eclipses in Aries and Libra. And Saturn's been highlighting challenges, obstacles to overcome, cultivating the need for discipline in this area, perhaps. Whatever Saturn has represented in terms of an obstacle or something immovable, Venus in Pisces is going to provide some moisture, some lubrication, if you will, to kind of help us slide around this obstacle. So bringing this into the context of our Venus story, Venus passed Saturn, I think that was January, I'm pretty sure, and moved on ahead into Aries and then retrograded back, starting in Aries and going back into Pisces. So this Saturn obstacle is a big part of our Venus retrograde story. Whenever Venus and Saturn get together, there's always concern with problem solving something in the relationship. And yes, I'm looking at my ephemeris right here. Venus entered Pisces in January. So yeah, early February also encountering that Saturn. Venus-Saturn is always preoccupied with, hey, these are the issues. Let's look at them. Let's try to problem solve them. And Saturn is also the reality check saying, hey, I don't know if we can solve this completely. Here's what I can do for you. Or here's where we're going to have to compromise. Or sometimes the tough reality with Saturn is we can't get around this. This is not going to serve you. This is not going to work anymore. And when Venus's retrograde began in Aries, Venus in Aries is all about, cutting straight to it. Like, these are the things that piss me off. This is what I'm going to do. And put all my cards out on the table, Venus and Aries, because I am not at peace within. I need to make some waves in my world. And with Venus retrograde in Aries, it's kind of like, I have to feel whole so that I can feel whole in my relationships. And so with Venus and Aries, it's kind of a need to prioritize what's on your mind, what's in your heart, what are you needing, versus prioritizing the needs of others. So the way I'm sort of envisioning this is making waves in Aries and then coming back into Pisces. And now that everything is out on the table, Venus in Pisces wants to find the win-win. Venus in Pisces says, I want us all to be happy. This is what I aspire to. This is what I envision. I want to work toward this. I want you to be happy too. So whatever the obstacle is, I think Venus here is willing to go to the lengths to solve and to meet the other person halfway. Venus here is willing to go to great lengths to get around the obstacle. And I think Venus in Aries is like a little bit more uncompromising about what our own needs are. Whereas Venus in Pisces is, it's like, okay, I can bend, I can shift. It's water, like water finds a way through every crack. We can find a way through this. So there's something really important for this entire month of April around our relationship story. Maybe it's finances. Venus has a lot to do with finances. Maybe it's about our ideals. Maybe it's a lot about our Venus retrograde story, like our priorities, and Saturn helping us to see what needs to shift or what is non-negotiable. So there's something there for all of us. And that has its hand in the eclipse. So some other things that we're going to be working with here is Mercury. So Mercury has retrograded back into Pisces at this point. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Let's see here. Okay, I want to go back to the 7th. On the 7th, wait, that's not right. Oh, that's the station direct. Okay. So Mercury retrogrades back into Pisces on the 30th, same day that Neptune enters Aries. So they kind of like cross paths briefly in Pisces, and then they switch. So Mercury is returning back to Pisces, where we're trying to make sense of the sublime. Mercury is sort of attuned to bigger than what we can understand issues, and something that might be really supportive for Mercury in Pisces is trying to communicate through things in a non-verbal kind of way. In other words, things that are evocative, music, film, a picture, poetry, comparisons, metaphors. Mercury in Pisces is really great with that. Music. Mercury's going to meet up with Venus. That's really lovely. That's going to help us communicate things that are in our heart. That's going to help us communicate in a more heart-centered, compassionate kind of way. That could also be really beautiful for the artists out there. Mercury is going to station direct on the 7th. That's what I wanted. Mercury stationing direct, also with Venus, also with Saturn, also on the North Node. So I think we're going to be having some really heartfelt conversations around this time, trying to bring in empathy, compassion, and understanding. Again, this could be really like if you're an artist, if you're trying to create something, if you're trying to give form to something that your heart has been feeling, this could be really cool for you. And that leads us all the way up to Venus's direct station on the 12th. And I'm going to put a pin in that there because that is our full moon, and we'll pick it up from there next time. But yeah, we're in it. We're in eclipse season. We're in Venus and Mercury retrograde. So if you're not sure about anything right now, it is okay. Move slowly, move intentionally, and take care of yourself right now. So that's all I have for today. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.